Welcome, everyone. I'm Lori Gambacorda.
And I'm Lisa Byrne, and we're the founders of E.P.I.C, Empowering People, Inspiring Community. And on today's segment of our E.P.I.C expert interviews, we have with us Dr. Petra Sullwold of Equine Chiropractic. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome, Petra. Let's start with how it is that you got into doing chiropractic for horses.
All right. It was many, many years ago. I was at a time in my life where I was really searching what's next, what I'm going to do next. I'd already started doing a little bit of equine sports, horse massage, basically. And I had an office job. I wasn't really happy with it. I worked for a big advertising firm, and I was just looking, I was searching. And at the same time, I had a horse. He was a thoroughbred from the racetrack, probably one of the most difficult animals I've ever worked with. He would kick and bite, and you would just try to get on him. He wouldn't have any of that. And it just so happened that the barn manager had a chiropractor come out. And I watched that chiropractor as he adjusted my horse. He didn't have to say a word. I just observed. And I think that week I signed up for chiropractic school. And mostly it wasn't so much the musculoskeletal changes that I saw, but it was the mental, emotional changes in that horse. I suddenly had a horse that showed up, that wanted to play, that wanted to learn. And it was incredible. It changed my life forever. And I had to basically endure 4 years of human chiropractic school before I could go to animal chiropractic school. But that's how it initially all started.
Tell us, some of the differences basically between adjusting a human and adjusting animals, and in particular horses. How does that relationship develop? Because you have to have a certain level of trust, I would imagine, for that to be successful and be able to do it in general.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's funny, people will ask me, like, what do I like better? And obviously I've always been really drawn to horses. I feel extremely comfortable with them. And when people ask me what's harder, is it harder to adjust a human or a horse? I would say it's difficult to compare, because there's an emotional aspect with humans that's a lot more intense than with horses. Horses are physical. You have to pick up their legs, and they're big animals. And I use my body weight, so I try to be very conscious about how I use my body and how I adjust. And, in the same token, standing over a table can be taxing on your body as well. So I would say at the end, it all comes out the same, but I would say definitely just the emotional aspect that humans have. It's naturally, we think about what's happening. Animals just live in the moment. They just like run with what you give them, whereas we humans, we will analyze it. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of guiding. So I think that's definitely emotionally more taxing. So I almost feel guilty charging money when I adjust horses, because I feel so nourished when I work on them. And if you compare dogs and horses, I do really love adjusting dogs as well, but I feel more connected to the equids. For some reason, I can read them better. There's a certain communication level that makes me feel so much more comfortable. Dogs can be a little bit unpredictable sometimes, and they take on a lot from their owner as well. So, and I have some colleagues, they stay far away from horses. They will do dogs and cats any day over horse. It all depends on your personality, I think.
I'm curious. You mentioned communicating. So can you talk a little bit more about that communication? What are you feeling or thinking as you're approaching a horse? And is it, are you communicating to the horse in pictures? Are you talking? How are you actually communicating?
That's a really good question. I have to actually think about that a little bit, because it's become such a second nature that, being a horsewoman all my life, I started riding when I was basically 3 or 4. I've had some incredible teachers that really taught me how to approach a horse. So there's part of a very physical aspect, meaning what's my body language like, how grounded am I? So when I work on a horse, there's no question the night before, I'm not going to be out partying and drinking and being crazy and then I show up hungover, for example, the horse would pick up on that. If I'm in a bad mood, if I had a fight with my spouse, for example, before I go out the horse, they would pick up on that. So it's really, really important to be clear. The animals and the dogs the same, they really feel where your state of mind is at. So without me even thinking anything, without me doing anything, just the state that I am at, that horse can sense that from before I ever exit my car. So they're so in tune and they're so sensitive. And my biggest, what I consciously do with the horse when I go and adjust them, the first thing is that I really ask them permission to work on them. And, you know, I do that in my mind, and when I approach him, it's very respectful, it's very gentle, it's attuned into what their vibe is in their body. You know, some horses are more burly, they can handle it like a nice firm touch. Other ones are very sensitive. So, you know, within the first couple of seconds, you really can tell, okay, is this horse just vigilant and excitable, or is it a really grounded being as well? So I have a conversation with the horse the entire time I'm working on them. They give me feedback with, you know, probably innately, it's more of a feeling for me. I don't necessarily see pictures, but they're telling me a story. You know, I can tell by their body posture, whether, you know, where their ears are at, if they're tensing up under my hands, you know, if there's, you know, I'll get strange feelings when I go to an area that just doesn't feel right. Their eyes and also, you know, they'll do a lot of licking and chewing when they enjoy something. They take lots of deep breaths. So they have very physical expressions as well while I work on them, which is great feedback for me. And, you know, they're very clear about, no, I don't like that. You know, they'll lift that leg, they'll pin their ears, they give me what I call the stink eye, you know, if they don't like something. Dogs do that too. And I do think people can do that too. So yeah, it's just so many forms of communication with them. It's really, really beautiful. And I think you just got to show up really clear.
We know with humans and with animals that chiropractic is an amazing force for transformational good. And how do people start out with, you know, considering, hey, maybe I should get my horse adjusted? Like, what are some of the things that they may see in their horse's behavior that chiropractic can help? Like, what are the benefits and why are the reasons they should come get their horse adjusted?
It's a great question. And, you know, what initially surprised me is when I first got into horse chiropractic, I thought it would be like the super athletes, people that are competing that would be calling me. But I have such a huge range, right? I have the backyard horse, I have the horse that's never gets ridden. And then I have the really high competitive level horses. And the reasons are like multifold. So it can be the owner gets chiropractic care, thinks it's great for them, so they want to give that gift to their horse. Most of the time, though, it's usually because their animal exhibits some kind of form of discomfort, meaning that, you know, they're lame, they are not moving properly, they're resistant, they're uncomfortable being saddled, they don't want to take the bit, they shake their head, they seem just generally uncomfortable, they're pissy, they start biting, they start kicking, bucking. I have lots of people that call me, my horse bucked me off. They've never done that before. So sometimes it's pretty strong signs and sometimes it's just little nuances. And depending on what level people are with the horses and how in tune they are with riding, people that ride the horses, they know like that. When the horse is not quite right, they like to call the chiropractor. And, you know, there's horses that have been through all kinds of different forms of, you know, they've gotten injections and they've had this test and people just couldn't figure out what it was. So sometimes I'm like their last little hope, their last little go-to and try. And so huge variety. You know, I also do lots of, like, for example, mares that are pregnant and, you know, people that, or horses that have been under care for a long time. The owner sees how much chiropractic care adds to the quality of their life. So they'll actually have like their little babies checked, you know, to make sure that they came out okay, and because they know just once they're right, then they're right, and their nervous system can just function at a whole other level. So it's quite powerful, and people get that.
What are some of the avenues that you use to kind of communicate with people about horse chiropractic? And do you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about what you offer in terms of maybe education and workshops?
Absolutely. So, when I first started off as an animal chiropractor, I did a lot more workshops, and it's definitely something I would love to get back into because it was so much fun. I used to speak a lot at the horse associations. I would give classes on how can you tell, that your horse needs to get adjusted. There's stretches, there's reflexes that the horse owner can do. And if they wouldn't work, then they could make the decision to call me, because I think a lot of people don't know exactly when to bring in their animal, like when is too soon, when is too late. So I would teach a lot of classes on that to the different, at the different horse clinics or horse associations. I have a website, which is equuschiropractic.com. That's EQUUS chiropractic. And I have a couple of videos on there, and I'm planning to adding more, because more and more people are requesting that I show them stretching videos and all that good stuff. I have a great video up there with Mark Rashid, who's a really well-known trainer, all about what horse chiropractic is. I'm not very good with social media, but I do have an Instagram account, which is Dr. Petra Sullwold. So those are kind of my little medium that I talk to people. But to be honest, a lot of times it's, being in the country, a lot of it is word of mouth. And as I see my clients and as I'm with them, I usually show and educate them when I see them. And my big goal is that I have a little newsletter, and to just make much more of an effort to communicate with my clients about, what exactly it is that when you get your horse adjusted, because they'll see me adjust the horse, but don't really understand what's happening on a nervous system level. So being able to communicate that is really important. And then, of course, I couldn't live without E.P.I.C. I have to advertise my business in E.P.I.C. So I appreciate you guys always supporting me as well. So thank you.
Cool. Happy to have you. It's awesome. We had an animal communicator on here a few episodes ago, and I'm wondering, do you think the horses, like, one gets adjusted, and then are they telling the other one, like, Dr. Petra's coming next week? You should really get an appointment with her. This was awesome. I mean, do you notice if there's more than one horse? I mean, hopefully, owners are sharing the wealth with all the horses in their stable or family. And do you see that happens? Like, they communicate back and forth to each other? And
so I think it even goes beyond that. It's the most fascinating thing that I didn't understand that at first when it started happening, but I would go to a barn, or let's say I would go into a pasture or in like a barn, and there were 3 or 4 horses in the same pen or the same pasture. And, I would be like, oh, let's just adjust the horse out there. And I would bring my bale and start adjusting the horse. And it was every single time the other horses would just like formed as like circle or like this perfect arrangement around us. And they would all in tune start licking and chewing. So I feel that actually totally observe that vibe. And, studies have been done, funny enough, not just with horses, but in human chiropractic. People sometimes think it's very strange when chiropractors have open adjusting rooms, but it has been shown that when you are in a group healing situation and you start picking up on each other's healing, it's that much more powerful. And the horses, absolutely. I mean, it's so fun to watch and how they tune in, and they just won't leave my side until I'm done. And then they just kind of, they wait and they're like, all right, am I next or what? So it's pretty funny. I mean, there have been some real fun situations, and other horses coming up trying to push the other one away so it can come up to my bale. And they ask for it, they nudge and they ask. And I have some clients, they have like 12, 13 horses, and she'll go out and be like, okay, who wants to get adjusted? And it's like, they start lining up, and he wants today, or this one doesn't so much. And it's pretty funny. There's all kinds of fun stories out there.
I think that's a good example of just, just how conscious animals are. I mean, I think there are still people out there who, think that animals don't have the same level of consciousness that humans do. But I see that there's quite a bit of evidence to the contrary. And you're clearly passionate about what you do. So this question might be kind of hard for you to answer, but what is it that you love the most about what you do?
I think what I love the most, hands down, is a horse, or actually an animal, doesn't place a limit of what an adjustment can do for them. So they don't have a story in their head. And I so love chiropractic. I live and breathe, and, it's a lifestyle for me. And to see you could adjust an animal and they just take that adjustment and run with it, and they shift. Because I'll see animals, I'm like, I don't know if I can help them. You clear their nervous system, you get rid of any of those misalignments, subluxations, and suddenly you have this totally functional, incredible being that's just exuberating health. And that's just like that's the proof in the pudding for me, right? This is why I do this, because anything is possible. And if the mind doesn't get into the way, it's just so utterly powerful. So that's a huge part of what I absolutely love about adjusting horses. Of course, being a crazy horse girl on top of it, the smell and being around them and in that energy, driving through the countryside in Colorado and adjusting. I mean, my office is my truck, and I can take my dogs with me. So, I meet the most incredible people, and I go to the most incredible places and ranches, and it just seems like things just keep on unfolding. And that's what I absolutely love about what I do.
Horses are amazing, and I'm from New Jersey, so my horse experience was a bit limited. But I came out here, and the first time I went to ride one, Lori and I were horseback riding, and we had this guy that said, "Oh, come on over here, and we're gonna pick the horse for you." And it was based on your experience, right? So,
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My battery just kind of came up. I'm so sorry. Do you mind if I plug it in really quickly? I'm so sorry.
Plug it in.
I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing.
So let's give Dr. Petra's website again. It is equinechiropractic.com if you want some more information on how to connect with her, educate yourself on the benefits of chiropractic through the information she has on her website. And then you can contact her to set up an appointment for your course.
I'm so prepared. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. So these are our authentic interviews. This is life and how it goes.
It's a real deal. But your story about somebody was picking a horse.
Yeah, so we go to this, place to horseback ride, and they base which horse they give you on your level of experience as a rider. So, I'm looking, there's maybe 10 of us there, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, oh, that horse is cute and it's little, and that's the one I'm going to get. So he starts handing out the horses, and I'm like, uh-oh, there goes my horse. Okay, well, I'll take that one because that one's kind of small too. There goes that one. I'm getting a little nervous. And finally he was like, oh, come here, Lisa. This is Winston. This is your horse. And I'm like, huh? It's the most gigantic horse I've ever seen in my life. I'm freaking out. I'm like a little afraid of heights. So he's like, yeah, we're going to ride that ridge. And there's snow up there. So I'm having a bit of a meltdown, but this is kind of leading somewhere. It's leading to the fact that you're talking about how intuitive, and intelligent these beautiful beings are. So my heart rate's high, but I'm like, I just got to trust. This guy's got years of experience. We get on the horses, we get up on this ridge, and with the snow, there's mud and there's all kinds of stuff happening. So this gigantic horse that I'm thinking, I don't know what's going to happen here. He's literally taking his hoof and testing, make sure he can step where he needs to step. I mean, it's one of the most incredible experiences I ever had. I felt like I can trust this being, and I am so just in awe and in great hands. So yeah. I don't even experience that on a daily basis. So that whole story is leading up to you, give us a couple stories of, you know, the kind of experience you have had with these amazing beings that you are adjusting.
Oh my gosh, where to begin, right? Well, I think I always felt like horses have always been major guides for me. And this is a little bit like not about adjusting necessarily, but more about what a big part they are playing in my life. And remember that racehorse I mentioned, right? It just right before I met that chiropractor came into my life. And if it wouldn't have been for this thoroughbred, I would have never met that chiropractor that day, and it wouldn't have put me in my path. And it was interesting when I really got into practice. I first really was focused on humans because I wasn't sure if I could make money as a horse chiropractor. And you know, like 10, 12 years ago, it was still, you know, some people were doing it, but still some people were just looking at you and like, I don't know about this. So, and funny enough, as a chiropractor, I really injured my back. And as I was laying there on my back, I had this intuition. I've been wanting to get Mustangs forever and ever. And I'm like, okay, as soon as my back heals, I'm going to go and get myself 2 Mustangs from Canyon City, the jail, because that's where they were held. And so as soon as it was better, I went up there, and it's literally like Candyland for horse people, because you have every age, color, shape of horse that are up there. And I think there was like a couple of thousand at the time. And you literally walk through each pen, and you can pick, you know, there's 100 to 150 per pen, and you can pick whichever one you want. And sure enough, everybody always asks me, they're like, how are you going to know? And I'm like, I'm going to know. So I went up there, and sure enough, I saw her. She's this beautiful black mare. And she did not want to get caught or anything, but I ended up, we somehow, you know, the guy kept on asking me, like, you sure you want her? She's a little tricky. And I'm like, yeah, I want her. So anyways, we got her, and she is with me now. She's really incredible. But there was somebody else with me, and they said, well, let's go to I need to go to the other pens because I would like to have a 2-year-old. And as I'm with this gentleman in that pen, this really beautiful buckskin just keeps on nudging me. And I remember my husband saying, only 1, not 2. Well, needless to say, I came home with 2. And, you know, it was pretty funny because I thought, okay, I picked 1 and the other one picked me. But I feel, you know, after 5 years later now, what I've learned from those beings, they're such teachers to me. In every single horse I work on, besides, you know, what I can do for them, the level of the depth they've brought me to, whether it's my spiritual practice, connecting with an animal on this level, how to handle people based on how I learned how to handle them. It's just really incredible because, you know, I look at my mare, she has really strict boundaries, and all she has to do is pin her ears a little tiny bit and everybody scatters. So I'm like, wow, I want to have this aura, you know, where I have good boundaries. And then, you know, there's the gentle little tones that they communicate with each other, right? Like, how can we do that with each other, the intuition that they have. And so there's this part of my experiences with horses where it's just utterly incredible what they have taught me. And then if I think about some of the horses that I had to honor to really help is, you know, where do I start? There is, you know, whether it's a horse that's like in the middle of a colic and, you know, I go out there and it's not this intention, oh, can I save it or not? But I'm going to make sure I'm going to make it feel as comfortable as possible. And sure enough, you know, like suddenly that horse gets up and poops and feels great again. And, you know, the owners just feel incredible about it. I do have a really, really funny story. It's actually not a horse story, but it just came up in my mind and I feel like I have to share that, which is about a llama that I had to adjust once. I thought it'd be a fun story to share, but we had a llama that was brought to our office. He was pretty unruly, and he was in the back of a pickup truck. And I remember calling my friend who does a lot of llamas, and she's like, well, you got to be really quick and make sure you duck because they spit. That's the advice she gave me. So this llama comes to our office, and I somehow adjusted him. But by the time I was done, we had this huge, you know, the Cafe of Life had this huge glass in the front there was spit everywhere. It was amazing. It was amazing. And my client had just parked her brand new car next to that pickup truck too. So that didn't look any better either. So there's just, it's never boring. It's always entertaining, the things that they do. And, the horses so appreciate it when they get adjusted, when they feel that ease and relief in their body and they can move again. It shifts everything. It's super powerful.
Cool.
You're obviously, very blessed to have had these animals in your life from an early age. But if you could now go back and give your younger self some advice, knowing everything that you know now, what would that advice be?
Definitely have if I look back, from the beginning, I should have just had a lot deeper trust on the path that I was on. I veered off that path a lot of times. I always knew when I was really young, I knew I wanted to work with animals, and I would veer off, and I would study this and work for that, and just really, and I just wasn't sure if I could ever make money doing something fun with animals. And to really trust that calling, that inner voice where you just have such a deep passion for that, and to stick with it and do that. And then when I came out after chiropractic school, you have student loans, so you're like, oh, I better make sure I have a human practice as well. When in reality, I would have been just fine just building my horse practice and playing and doing the thing that really, really filled my heart. That's probably the biggest advice.
Let's fast forward now. If it's 5 or 10 years from now, what would you imagine that your biggest achievement or contribution to the community or horse chiropractic will be?
Well, I think first we've been really getting into teaching. So we have advanced animal chiropractic programs, and I just want to take that to a whole other level because there's not enough animal chiropractors. And, I think my contribution would be to educate more animal chiropractors that just totally have the love and the passion that I feel in my heart, and also the technique and the expertise to perform really incredible adjustments. And right now, we in Colorado, we just had a huge change where animals now have direct access to animal chiropractic. And my goal is to have that happen nationwide. And so more people have the opportunity to give their animal an alternative or an alternative segment in healthcare. And because, people absolutely love their animals, and to have this available to them is really, really sweet.
A little quick follow-up to that. That's amazing to be out there educating everyone. And just because you had talked about the llama, what's the strangest animal that you've adjusted, and can every animal be adjusted? Like if somebody has a frog or I'm sure it's mostly like domesticated animals and farm animals. Like you have some farm animals that you have yourself. And
I adjust my chickens.
Donna get adjusted too? Or?
Yeah, she does, but she's very tricky. So that's my potbelly pig, and I was all excited. I'm gonna really get into like pig adjusting, but pigs are tricky. They're like cats. They have their own opinion, and it's only on her terms. And if you force anything, she will scream. So I won't. It's only when she allows me, and it's only a couple times a year where she'll be like, okay, I need it. So yeah. And to your question, if there's a spine, you can adjust it. And, there's different angles, and those are the things that you have to pay attention to. And I think, after being a chiropractor for 13 years, you really get a feel for how does different vertebrae move and where there's areas that don't move properly. So you really know the lines of drive and all of that is different in each animal. So you do need to be aware of that. But yeah, the variety from iguanas to chickens to llamas, lots of pigs. We had a show pig that had really bad torticollis, so its neck was like this. And sure enough, we adjusted it and it was perfect. And yeah, pretty much anything. And it's the nature of the beast, you know, when you're somewhere at somebody's house, you just can't help yourself. Next thing you know, you're sitting there with the cat in your lap and you're just, you're adjusting it. It's just what you're drawn to, I think, as a chiropractor.
Yeah. So it's like donkeys and mules and horses.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest, you know, I think obviously my biggest clientele is dogs and equids, meaning donkey, mules, horses. And, but, you know, especially in the cities, like there's some chiropractors that, you know, will focus on cats. And I love adjusting cats. They're so fun to adjust because that's a whole other level. You know, I think they have 20 lives. So it's, they'll come in and you're like, there's no way I'm going to be able to help this cat. But cats, they just take it to a whole other level. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty incredible.
Interesting.
Well, why don't you tell folks once again how they can get in touch with you, and do you have any workshops upcoming?
Let's see here. We have a animal chiropractic workshop, but if somebody is interested in learning more about, you know, how to work with the animals, how to know if they need chiropractic care or not, just reach out to me because I'll be more than happy to put something together. Summer's always really, really busy, but just holler, like just go to my website, equine-chiropractic.com, and shoot me an email, or you can give me a call, 970-903-8901. And yeah, I'd love to just like talk to you. If you have any questions, I'm here to help. And I can always, even if it's somebody in another state, I'm more than happy to refer you to a chiropractor that's a good animal chiropractor.
Thank you so much, Petra. This has been amazing learning about animal chiropractic and horses in particular. So if you are interested, again, visit Dr. Petra at equine-chiropractic.com. And for more information about E.P.I.C and to watch these interviews, you can visit epicmag.org. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you.